Hello students, welcome to Study IQ. So we will continue our discussion on theories of social stratification. We have basically introduced theories of stratification, and in the previous session we have discussed about the concepts related to Parsons theory of stratification, Davis and Moore theory of stratification, and in this session I have told you we will take up the detailed analysis of Parsons and Davis and Moore theory of stratification, and along with that I'll also discuss about W.L. Warner. So we started like this in the beginning, in the first session in the theories. We have talked about the evolution. We started from Plato, Aristotle time. That means even before the emergence of sociology also, there were attempts to understand inequality and social stratification, right? And Plato, Aristotle, they have actually understood inequalities in terms of natural differences. They have understood it as something which is naturally created. People are born unequal. So this is the naturalist school of understanding inequality. Later we have seen Saint Thomas and Saint Augustine. They try to understand social inequalities in terms of property, prestige, etc. So apart from the naturalist understanding of social inequalities, now understanding of social inequalities in terms of social terms actually started, or inequalities in social terms actually started. Then we talked about Bentham, Locke, Rousseau, Hegel, etc. They try to understand it as something which is inherent or acquired, or as a combination of both. It could be natural, it could be social, or as a combination of both. And then we have talked about Karl Marx, and I've told you it is because of division of labor this inequality is there, and we have discussed about solution according to Marx as a communist society. And I've told you this detailed discussion we will take up later because this is there in your syllabus. So as part of the syllabus, when we discuss about the thinkers, we will be definitely covering about this particular theory. It's directly there in your syllabus. Others are not there, others are not significant. Then we have discussed about Weberian idea about stratification, and he take into consideration the multidimensionality of stratification, or multidimensional pattern of stratification, by accommodating not only class but also status and power. We will discuss about Weber in detail, so we will discuss about this particular theory in detail. And then we have understood what is structural functional understanding, and in structural functionalism we will talk about Parsons, Davis and Moore, and the W.L. Warner. And I've told you some thinkers, Eric Olin Wright, etc. They have made some attempt to combine Marxian and Weberian understanding, and Baudrillard and Bach, they have done something like in the postmodern approach, right? So basically in the postmodern approach, they are not considering the stratas, because stratas are seem to be diffusing, and individualized inequalities are more nowadays. Okay, so that study is not that relevant according to the postmodernist. So this is what we have discussed in the first session. And then we have discussed about the important theories related to social stratification. In the structural functional theory, we started off with Parsons, and we have discussed Parsons theory, right? What is Parsons theory of social stratification? Society is based on consensus. Understand here, this is very important. Society is based on consensus, and this consensus are in the form of norms and values. Norms are the expected behavior, right? If you are violating norms, there is no punishment. You are deviant. It is considered as anomy. But if you are violating a law, there is a punishment. That is a criminal activity. So that's the difference between norms and law. Both are different. Okay, and norms and ethics, that's different. You can be ethical even violating norms also in some situations. See, I will talk about ethics later. We will discuss in detail about ethics. Okay, I will be taking that ethics classes also for you. So norms, so some of you are having this understanding morality and ethics are same, norm and ethics are same. See, obviously norms is the expected behavior, and what are the ethical actions? That is actually the expected behavior, but norms and ethics both are different. Norms, even certain cases, even if you violate the norm, still you can be ethical in certain situations. So we will there discuss about different thoughts, deontological thought, utilitarian thoughts, everything I'll cover. So after prelims I'll cover all those things. You just wait, and after prelims I'll be taking up ethics and post-independence history and world history also. So I think most of the areas for prelims I have covered, and you can see all those videos in my Telegram channel. If you missed out any videos, you can join here. That's my Instagram ID, Zia Safir. Okay, or you can join the Telegram channel. You'll get all my videos over there. Apart from that, if you want to write any test series, sociology test series, or if you need to get a regular classes or anything, online classes that are already available with Study IQ. Apart from that, if you need a regular classes or test series or any help, any mentorship program, personal mentorship or guidance, you can talk to me. This is my number, 9790 892 697 or 98955 77 775. Okay, so if you need to get in touch with me, you can search for Zia IAS. You'll get my this thing. This is my Facebook page, or Zia Safir. This is my Facebook ID. These two are basically Facebook ID. This is Instagram and Telegram channel. Okay, so we have talked about Parson. Parson basically talking about society is based on consensus, and consensus are in the form of norms and values. Norms are the expected behavior. Values are the ideas that people carry in their mind, which decides the desirability, undesirability, preferability, rejection, superiority, inferiority, etc. of certain things. And we have talked about examples, patriarchal value, and I've told you in patriarchal value, like male child is preferred, male child is desirable, and male child is superior over a female child. So that we have anyway done. I'm not getting into the details here. And then this conformity to these norms and values is actually considered desirable and is often rewarded. And people always tries to conform to the norms and values. Okay, and people not only try to conform to these norms and values, people also try to evaluate themselves on the basis of conformity to these norms and values. So social stratification is actually a system which ensures that it actually ensures rewards to the people on the basis of intent and ability. Okay, so that we have already discussed. And then we have talked about Davis and Moore. In Davis and Moore's theory, we have discussed that society is made up of certain positions. Some of the positions are functionally more important than others. Okay, and the functionally more important positions has to be filled with the most talented people. And to attract the talented people, high rewards are necessarily attached to the most important positions. Otherwise, if it is unskilled labor, then it's okay, no need to attach that high reward. There is no need to attract the talented people. Anyone can do that work. So here that's not the case. Most important positions require skill, talent. So to attract that skilled and talented people, you have to give the maximum reward to that position. Okay, so people will undergo training and sacrifices to achieve that talent, okay, and the skills. And social stratification is actually a system which fulfills the most important positions with the most talented people by offering proper rewards. So that is the reason why you can see stratified system or stratas in the society. Some people are better rewarded, some people are getting better privileges because they are the most talented, more skilled, and they are suitable for that more important position. Like when you are preparing for civil services, you are going for a lot of training, sacrifices, you are attending these classes, you are listening to me, and you are writing down the notes, you are sacrificing a lot of functions, parties and everything, and this has to be rewarded, right? So important positions, society is composed of important positions, or society is composed of many positions. Some are functionally more important, means that itself shows that strata. Okay, so I hope you understood. These are the propositions raised by or given by Davis and Moore. And then in the second part of this theory, Melvin Tumin raised certain objections to this. So you are saying some positions are functionally more important, but how can you judge the relative importance of that position? Some positions like doctors and teachers, if you take, which one is superior? How can you judge that? Without a teacher, doctor cannot be there. Without a doctor, teacher cannot survive. So how can you say the relative importance? So that's the first objection raised by Melvin Tumin. And he also said that there is no efficient or effective method for measuring talent. And he also said instead of rewards, see, rewards can be considered functional only if society is giving equal opportunity to all to achieve these things. But society is not giving equal opportunity to all in terms of education, in terms of training, in terms of recruitment. Not everybody is getting quality classes. Like if you're aspiring for IAS examination, not everybody is getting access to these quality classes. Now even though you are attending online free of cost, but still you are not getting complete access to complete classes. This even in my classes also you're not getting it complete, and those classes that you are getting, some other people who are aspire to become IAS officers or civil servants, they are not even having the mobile phones and all these facilities, and they are not getting that. So I'm saying entire classes you are not getting, firstly. Secondly, whatever you are getting, that is actually not available for those poor people, so who don't have mobile phones and recharge facilities, etc. And obviously they cannot go and attend the direct classes also. You may be able to go and attend the direct classes with me or with some other faculties. You can write the test series and everything can be possible. So what I'm saying is there are a lot of difficulties. So equal opportunity is not there for all the people. And see, what is the advantage of this theory? You can relate this theory with yourself. Okay, and all these arguments that he's making, Davis and Moore, are logical. So it is very easy for you to remember, and I promise you, even if you want to, you cannot forget this theory. Once you learn this theory, you will never forget this theory. Okay, because it's all connected to you. Okay, the third, so he is talking about rewards. Rewards can be considered functional only if society is giving equal opportunity to all. And then he is saying you can give alternative motivational schemes instead of rewards. But the problem is here, he is not talking about what is that alternate motivational scheme. And finally, he is also saying that social stratification actually making stratas in society, and that actually promote hostility and distrust amongst different stratas. So these are the objections or problems which are highlighted by Melvin Tumin. Now, in the third part, what will happen is Davis and Moore will clarify these points, and he will give answer to the Melvin Tumin's objections or the questions. The first and the most important one was how to judge the relative importance of the position in question, right? So how to judge the relative importance of the position which is in question. So what Davis and Moore said is, it is difficult to judge the relative importance, but it is not impossible. You can judge the relative importance of a position in question firstly by the degree to which that one is unique. For example, when I am talking about a teacher and a collector, which one is more unique here? This collector post or IAS officer post is more unique. One district, only one collector. But one district, how many teachers are there? Right? So that is possible. And again, secondly, you can understand this functional importance by the degree to which other positions are dependent on the one in question. Okay, so let's suppose people are dependent on which position more, collector or a teacher? Collector. The entire district will be depending on that particular collector. Okay, not the teacher. So in that way you can actually understand it here. Now if I am taking this to comparison, otherwise also it is easy to say collector is more important. What about this teacher and a doctor? Even then also I would say doctor is more important functionally, because anybody can be a teacher. Even I am an accidental teacher. I am teaching you and you are listening to me, so I can be a teacher, and tomorrow you all can be a teacher. So everybody can be a teacher. You are just learning and you are teaching, you are explaining it, right? If you can learn and if you can explain it well, you can be a teacher. But can you be a doctor like that? Can you ever be an accidental doctor? No, right? My profession is different, but I am teaching you now. So because of situations, and these are accidentally happen, right? So here doctor, I cannot become a doctor. And it is very difficult, right? So, and if you take in terms of numbers also, how many doctors are there, how many teachers are there? Everywhere you can see teachers, but doctors, there are limitations. So in that way, by the degree to which one is unique, by the degree to which the others are dependent on the one in question, you can actually understand the relative importance of the position. Okay, so it is not impossible, although it is difficult. It is difficult. Obviously subjectivity is there, okay, and value bias is there, value commitment is there, all these issues are there, but still it is not impossible. Secondly, what Davis and Moore saying is, rewards are necessary because people are undergoing training, hard sacrifices, etc. And these candidates are facing a lot of hardships during the training period, so they must be compensated very well. And if it is unskilled work, you don't want to give that much reward, but for skilled work, you need to have talented people and skilled people. So definitely you have to give reward, otherwise you won't get. And regarding alternate motivational scheme, if you leave society just like that, if everybody can do everything what they wish, means society cannot have that social order. So there will be a problem with the social order. And finally, with respect to dysfunctions, what Melvin Tumin said and the reaction to that, which is given by Davis and Moore, it may be dysfunctional in some cases, but the fact that it present in all societies shows that the functional dimensions of stratification or inequality, which is inevitable, which is permanent, and which is there in all different types of society. So it may be dysfunctional in some aspects, but the fact that it exists in every society, every non-society, shows that it is functional and it is inevitable. It provides certain vital functions for the functioning of society. So that's about the theory that we have discussed. Now we will move on to the PDF and I'll discuss there. So what generally I'll do is I'll discuss this in the class, the theory, then I'll dictate it, and during dictation also I'll discuss. So here I'm not dictating so that we can save the time. Okay, so in fact this is our third session on stratification theory only. So here I'll finish it off. Okay, you might be attending this from the last 3 days, so I'll finish it off theories today. So tomorrow we'll move to social mobility. So we will start with this theory. So structural functional theory. Structural functional theory of social stratification are based on the assumption that it fulfills some vital functions in the context of structure and is both inevitable and necessary. I've told you what is structural functional approach. Functions in the context of a structure. Okay, so structure is important. Importance of stratification is emphasized on account of existence of all societies. In all societies, stratification exists. So you can see the importance of this. Talcott Parson formulated an initial theory of stratification, which is considered as very simple and broad. More detailed theories of stratification is found in the writings of Davis and Moore and W.L. Warner. See, if you're listening this lecture for the first time, please go back and you watched all the previous videos. At least the theories of stratification, 2 videos are done. At least that you need to watch. Otherwise, you won't get continuation here. I'm requesting you, if you are watching this for the first time, my lecture, if you're seeing for the first time, you watch that, okay? And you can get that in my Telegram channel. So there's my Telegram channel, you'll get it over there. Please watch that, otherwise you won't get any continuity, okay? So more detailed theories of stratification is found in the writings of Davis and Moore and W.L. Warner, okay? So Parson's theory is like this. According to Parson, every society is based on consensus, I've told you this, in terms of norms and values, and the conformity to these norms and values is considered desirable and also rewarded, okay? So desirable and rewarded. Now, the people tend to evaluate themselves in terms of their ability to conform to these norms and values. Thus, social stratification is a mechanism of ensuring people that they have been given a particular position as per their intent and ability. Okay, then Davis and Moore theory. Very important theory. You should be knowing this. Very easy. I have told you everything related to Davis and Moore. No need to have any doubt here. Okay. So this theory is formulated in the book titled Some Principles of Social Stratification 1942. You should be writing this book name, okay? In terms of number of propositions, explaining systematically the differential distribution of rewards in society. Stratification is nothing but differential distribution of rewards. According to them, differential distribution of reward is a reflection of stratified society and helps in perpetuating it. See, the differences in rewards is actually the reason why it is continuing. If you are not giving top privileges and top rewards at the top position, nobody want to be at that position by doing all this hard work and hardships and trainings, right? Then it won't continue, right? So because of this rewards only, that stratification is actually continuing. The propositions include: society is made up of different positions. Some of them are functionally more important than others. These positions develop a view of stratified society. I don't think you will have any doubt here, okay? And in fact, I don't think that I need to explain this theory. I've already done, and I'm expecting that it might have already printed in your heart, in your mind. Okay, high rewards are attached to the positions of great importance in order to attract talented people, which is needed for such position. Important positions require skill and training. Those who undertake this training make certain sacrifices, like what you're doing now, and therefore have to be compensated by the way of more rewards. So you should be compensated with rewards, either IAS, IPS, or something else you have to get into because of all these efforts that you're putting in, right? All the nights you're studying and you're sacrificing a lot of things. Social stratification is a mechanism of distribution of rewards in order to fill functionally more important positions with talented people. That's about social stratification, okay? Thus, stratified positions which are witnessed in every society are important for the proper organization of society. Moreover, there are no society which is based on unstratified social position. Now we will talk about the second part, that is Melvin Tumin. So in reaction to this theory, Melvin Tumin raised certain objections. How to judge the relative importance of a position? It involves a value preference. Rewards can be considered functional only if society provides equal opportunity to all. Yes. There is no effective method for measurement of talent of people, right? See, you are preparing for IAS, IPS. Do you think the exam that is conducted can actually measure the talent of a talent which is required for this IAS, IPS post? Similarly, CAT exams people are writing. Do you think will there be a better method to measure the talent than CAT? Yes. Okay. So there is no effective measurement of talent. Trainees do not undergo any sacrifices except the suspended earnings during the training period, and generally the cost of training will be taken care by the parents, right? Okay. There can be alternative motivational schemes instead of differential rewards, and he is not clear about what is this alternative motivational schemes also. Social stratification actually hinders the process of integration in society by generating hostility and distrust between privileged and underprivileged. Okay, now what we will see the clarification given by Davis and Moore. So Davis and Moore further clarified their theory of social stratification in the light of objections raised by Tumin. The further arguments given by Davis and Moore are: it is difficult but not impossible to judge the relative or functional importance of a position. The particular position can be evaluated using two criteria. One, by the degree to which the position is functionally unique. I've told you, teacher and collector, what is more unique? Collector. So you can judge the relative importance. Secondly, by the degree to which other positions are dependent upon the one in question. So more people are depending on the collector, and the entire district depends on the collector. Okay. If it is chief secretary, entire state depending on the chief secretary. Okay, like that. If it is prime minister, entire country depends on the prime minister. So I hope you understood. So next, so where we discussed, yeah. Now rewards are necessary to motivate people to undergo training, as it involves time, energy and money. See, he said rewards are not necessary and alternative motivational scheme. As a reaction to it, this is a reply. Rewards are necessary. Why? Then only people see why you are motivated to study, why you are studying for 14 to 16 hours a day. It is because of that motivation, because of the rewards, the privileges that you're going to get. It is not just to do the social service. Social service you can do now also. You don't want to do all this hard work and clear the exam for the social service. You are looking for Labasna, you are looking for SVP, NPA, the life over there and the privileges that you're going to get after that. And that's why you are ready to work very, very hard at this point of time. Okay? So it involves time, energy and money, which is not required for an unskilled task. Moreover, trainees have to undergo a lot of hardships during training, right? Regarding alternative motivational schemes, Davis argued that modern society cannot function if people were left to do whatever they wish. It will create imbalance in society. Okay, social stratification may be dysfunctional in certain respect, but the fact that it is universally present shows that it must be fulfilling certain functions and is an inevitable social reality. Although this theory has been now, okay, so that's about the clarification. Now what we need to do, we need to criticize this theory. Okay, so this is general criticism. If the question is asked as critically analyze Davis and Moore theory, then this is your answer. Okay, so I hope you understood. Even if simply they're asking about Davis and Moore theory, you need to bring this criticism. So without this, your answer is not complete. Okay, so although this theory has been acknowledged as a valid sociological theory of stratification, still it suffers from a number of logical errors. So here we are actually going to discuss about the criticism. They include: this theory is more suitable for understanding class stratification. Yes, here we are only talking about important positions related to class stratification, the quality, rewards, etc. Right? But other forms of social inequalities cannot be explained with this theory. We have talked about different other stratification like gender, race, ethnicity, all these we have explained, but we cannot explain all those stratification by using this. So there is a limitation for this theory. Okay, there's a limitation. This can explain only class stratification, not like caste, gender, ethnicity, race, etc. Okay, for example, gender stratification is not based on functional importance of position. Rather, the gender inequalities are basically imposed by the culture. This theory applies more on open stratification system. Now you know what is open stratification, what is closed stratification, everything you know now better than me. Okay, so the rigidity of caste system cannot be explained with the help of this theory. I hope you understood this. This theory is based on an unrealistic assumption of equal opportunities, whereas in reality, a number of factors like parental background, infrastructure, culture, etc. hinders equality of opportunity. See, I'm telling you, I'll give you the PDF if you don't want to write it down. And this itself is enough for these theories and these areas. Paper 1, all topics I will do like this, and you can see the notes. This is crisp and to the point and only for exam point of view. You don't want to add anything else. You don't want to remove anything else. This is to the point. You can see that, and you can compare it with any notes which is available in the market. This is to the point, and you can write beautiful answers with these notes. There is no point in reading some other textbooks. And if at all you need to read, and thinkers, I promise you don't want to read anything. The notes that I have done is just like that. Okay, so that's my strong area, and that will be your strongest area once we're done with thinkers. That's my promise. But if you need to read something, I'll tell you Harlambos you can read for that chapter on politics and society and religion and kinship, and One more is there, religion, religion and society, and family and kinship. These 3 chapters you can read Harlan Bose. Apart from that, paper 1, nothing is required apart from my note. Paper 2, I will tell you some books like Ghanshyam Shah, I will tell you, okay, KL Sharma, Ram Ahuja is there, Dhanagarai is there, all these textbooks I will tell you, and I will also tell you which chapters you need to read. For example, modernization of Indian tradition, you don't want to read that entire book of Yogendra Singh. I'll tell you which pages that you need to read from that, so that you can save the time. Okay, and I'm doing that work for you. Okay, so if your teacher is working more harder than you, then your effort will come down, and I'll tell you what you need to read and what not to read, and that's more important. What not to read is more important. That can save your time, and that time could be utilized in many other things like writing tests and answers, etc., and that's more important. Okay, so yeah, here that theory. And then Davis and Moore theory cannot justify inherent exploitation generated by distribution of rewards. According to Marx and later Marxists, the distribution of rewards are controlled and managed by the dominant classes to satisfy their own interest. This distribution of rewards is actually controlled by the upper class to manage and help in the interest of their class only. So it is handled by the capitalist, and it will suit the interest of the capitalist only. They only will get those rewards and privileges and everything. Okay, so thus that's what Marxian understanding. The constitution is an executive document of bourgeois. Parliament is an executive committee of bourgeois. We will discuss all these things when we discuss about Marx. Okay, you don't want to worry about Marx or anything goes. So thus stratification is not fulfilling the interest of society, rather it satisfies the interest of few. This view is also supported by elite self-recruitment theory. Elite self-recruitment theory we will study in politics and society chapter. I'll discuss that in detail over there, but understand why you can see a correlation, right? Most of the IAS officers' sons are IAS officers. Most of the doctors' sons are doctors. Don't you think this is what you mean by elite self-recruitment theory? We will discuss that in detail later. Okay, so that's what I've told you before. Even though you consider the system as open, but parental background, everything decides everything. Okay, so this theory is little relevant in postmodern society, as the strata-based inequalities seem to be disappearing. I've told you this before itself. Postmodernists claim that existence of individualized inequalities rather than strata-based inequalities. Now W.L. Warner, his theory is also very simple, similar to Parson. This won't be asked as a separate question. What he's saying is, people are compartmentalized. Like this, people live in different compartment, and each compartment people having different culture. Okay, and the important function of this compartmentalization based on culture is actually to maintain the cultural stability and to prevent the intergroup conflict. Between this group, conflict will not be there. So cultural stability will not be there, and intergroup conflict. So this is actually the advantage of stratification according to W.L. Warner. So you can see it's a very simple theory. Warner, in his famous book Yankee City, while reporting social classes based on status or lifestyles in few American communities, developed a different justification for existence of social stratification. According to him, social stratas are generally separated into relatively distinct segments that have more or less balanced and integrated culture. Thus, these stratas ensure cultural stability in society by compartmentalizing people on the basis of different culture. This reduces the chances of intergroup conflict. Okay, so that's about the session. We have done with social stratification. Next session I'll talk about social mobility. Okay, so I hope you understood the session. I'm saying if not here, never and ever. So we are doing it in that comprehensive way. Okay, so if you have any doubt still, you can get in touch with me here. That's my Instagram ID. You can join the Telegram channel. Don't take it as arrogance. This is my confidence. Okay, so I'm expecting that all of you understood this theory of stratification. If you have attended the 3 sessions, I'm sure that you will never forget these theories. Even if you want to, you will not forget it. Okay, that's my confidence, not arrogance. Don't take it in that way. Okay, so if you want any help, you can get in touch with me. If you want to write a test series or anything, you feel free to call me or contact me, WhatsApp me, message me, Telegram me, whatever you want, you can do. Okay, I'll reply to it. So see you guys. Thank you. So that's about the session. I hope you understood everything that we have discussed today. If you have any doubt in any of the videos that we have discussed so far, you can get in touch with me here. That's my Instagram ID. Okay, or you can join the Telegram channel. You will get all my videos over there. Everything is there. Or you can see here, this is a Telegram channel, or this is the Instagram ID. These two are my Facebook page. You can get in touch with me in any of this. If you want to learn economy with me or history with me or general studies, any subjects, you can, if you need regular classes, you can get in touch with me, or the online classes are available with Study IQ. You will get all those classes. Still, you will get my YouTube videos in this Telegram channel. Okay. So I hope you understood everything that we have discussed. So see you guys. Thank you.